with Sam Amick yesterday.
All right, here we go. We tracked him down. The international man of mystery, Sam Amick from The Athletic. Are you counting down the days to vacation?
I am indeed. Jay Ross, always great to see you. It's a shorter countdown than normal this year, checking out a little bit earlier, but also having to come to grips with the reality that chances are, while we're on vacation, Kevin Durant probably get traded somewhere. Kyrie probably go to the Lakers. Craziness will happen. The NBA has done an incredible job, as you know, of just kind of, capturing the spotlight almost 12 months out of the year. So even though you feel like we're kind of almost done, there's always something going on.
So you've got this amazing European vacation, but if either of those two things happen, do you have to work, or does the family understand? What's the process?
So as often happens in our visits on KH2K, I will be like an athletic commercial for my company, because to our company's credit, we are loaded when it comes to good basketball writers, and we have other folks who can weigh in. So in years past, like when I was at USA Today and I was the only West Coast-based national writer, you felt like anything west of the Mississippi, if I didn't have something to say and have something to report, then we didn't have a presence. But our place nationally, when you're talking about Shams Charania, John Hollinger, Joe Varden, all these guys, we got bodies, we got good voices.
So, but can you be get into full Clark Griswold European vacation mode, or
yes,
will you follow Durant when how can you get away?
You can, you have to, not to get corny, but you and I have been doing this a long time. You kind of reaches the point, especially we got families, I think you kind of owe it to them to go be in the moment a bit and enjoy yourself. Will I maybe jump on the phone for a few minutes? Am I going to read, maybe send a few texts? We'll see. But, you don't want to have it become a working vacation.
I want to ask you about the Kings in a minute, but when you're here, your colleagues, the other people, everybody that runs into, is that still the number one topic? What's going to happen with KD and Kyrie? Or what are you guys all talking about here?
That's a big one, because it's also had a ripple effect of tying up things like the DeAndre Ayton free agency, where he's a restricted free agent, but teams have not wanted to give him, for one, the market's pretty dry in terms of max contracts, but the idea of him signing an offer sheet, with anybody could potentially rule out certain sign and trade scenarios that would be Durant related. So a lot of moving parts, a lot of layers to it. So those Kyrie, Kevin, Aiden are the big ones. Today, as you and I talk, more summer league focused, but James Wiseman for the Warriors going to play later in the day. And for them, that's a big one. That's their number one pick that obviously been hurt. So I love it, though, because last year when we were here, you're still making your way through the pandemic like we are now, but you and I are sitting here talking in a physical space that the nickname is the Pit, which is really like a who's who of the NBA. And last year we thought in terms of media access that we would be back in the Pit, but then there was a COVID uptick right before Summer League it was in August last year. It was much later. So we didn't get this kind of access, and that matters a lot for what we do. I mean, you can probably tell, I'm tired. I'm tired out here, but you are just running into everything from GMs, agents, assistant GMs, players, coaches. Just chatted with Alvin Gentry a few minutes ago, obviously still with the Kings. So it's a great event. You just can't replicate, these kind of interactions anywhere else.
I hear Vegas voice. I mean, it's there.
Yeah.
That's whatever happens here. It's just, you've got Vegas voice.
I do have it. And I guess I can confess publicly, I have an annual habit of enjoying a stogie. So you're hearing stogie voice as well.
Let's ask you about the Kings. I know you've seen them play. I mean, there's a lot going on here. Everybody kind of watches games, kind of checks in and out. But Keegan Murray's their number one priority, at least out here. What have others said? What impressions have you heard from other people when they kind of talk about the Kings and Keegan Murray?
A lot of really good buzz. He's played well. The other day, the Magic game was a barn burner, making Summer League history with big comeback and double overtime and sudden death. And obviously they got the short end of it with that overturned Paolo Banchero block. But, Keegan hitting that three in the corner. Those are good Summer League moments. I loved, and admittedly, I watched that game with Keegan more closely than any of the other ones. But the spirit of like his kind of mano-a-mano matchup with Paolo was cool, because I told somebody earlier today that this environment's weird because the media is very focused on these relationship stuff I talked about. You're not always watching very closely, but sometimes it's good to look up at the court and remind yourself that like guys are absolutely getting after it because their livelihood is on the line. Not just the lottery picks, but all these summer league guys.
Yeah.
And I was in the gym on the other side, and I don't know why I'm blanking on what team it was. Oh, the Pacers. I'm sorry, Pacers-Kings game. The Pacers were celebrating like they beat the Kings in a playoff game. And bodies on the floor. So the basketball is actually pretty good, and it's obviously grown. And I'm definitely not answering your question, Jason, because I'm fatigued. Keegan Murray is getting buzz. Like, he's a really good player. Obviously, the discussion immediately becomes Jaden Ivey, Keegan Murray. Plenty of people think they should have taken Jaden.
Sure.
I'm torn, and I've been telling people, like, I like the moves of the offseason. I think they'll be better, but I would be surprised if they're in the playoffs because the West is tough. So it's like, they are obviously incredibly invested in De'Aaron Fox, and felt just me talking, but I think it's true, like, that Keegan was a better fit, But it certainly helps that so far he looks like a hell of a player who can help right now.
So you do like Herter, you like Monk, those that were drafting Murray, but to your point, just the landscape of the West, it may not be enough.
It is. I got to paint the picture for your listeners here. The Warriors are about to take the floor. James Wiseman, the man of the hour, just walked by us. So this is just giving you a little flavor. Jonathan Kuminga coming by. I don't think he has time for an exclusive interview. But
we could have done a walk by.
We could have, exactly. But repeat the last question. Apologies. Man, I'm a train wreck here.
Just the overall additions you said you like, but just because the landscape, you just don't think it's enough of the West.
It's not. I mean, we'll see. Minnesota, I like what they did with Gobert. I do. So I think Minnesota's better. New Orleans, finishing the way they did last year, getting Zion Williamson. The point is, for the Kings' purposes, some of these fringe playoff teams, are not fringe anymore. So they're going to have some slots in the West playoff landscape that look like they're unofficially already filled. The numbers game just looks tough right out the gate. But I like the Monk deal a lot. I thought it kind of helped them avoid criticism from the DiVincenzo situation. And I like the idea that if De'Aaron's going to shock the world and take another jump and look kind of worthy of everything they've invested into him, not just contract-wise, but building your roster around De'Aaron Fox, then Malik, a guy that he has a personal connection with from Kentucky, and a guy coming off the best year of his NBA career on that contract, is really good production, really efficient contract. The Kevin Huerter one, you got control of a guy who around the league people still think he's a pretty good player. And the one misnomer is that he's like a pretty decent team defender. I know the analytics on the Kings side, the work they did, that he really stood out. That defensively, Mike Brown should be able to do some things with him there. It's just a matter of how much better can they be?
That's what I want to ask you about. I mean, coaching, whether it's been the problem or part of the problem, you need better rosters and all the turmoil, everything they've been through that how much of an impact do you think Mike Brown and the new staff can have in making this team better?
Before you even get to the X's and O's, I think what Mike had to say at his press conference, and then where Mike is at. Nice to see you, sir. Sorry, doing a radio thing. Yep. Summer League people.
Yes.
Is the culture part of the conversation that he shared at his press conference is legitimate. And if he can come in, he's a very positive guy, but he's not a sugarcoater, and he's pretty rough. Rough's the wrong word. He's just pretty direct with young guys. It's funny because as the Warriors roll by, it makes me think about, Jordan Bell is a former Warrior who got in trouble when he was with the Warriors. We wrote about this at the time, and he had put some stuff on Mike Brown's hotel bill. I might have told you this story.
Yes.
And and Mike kind of decided that, young fella needed to learn a lesson. And so that's his style. And on the court, Steph Curry has talked about how the Warriors have these defensive report cards, and they all really want to check out well and have Mike's approval. That speaks volumes. These are future Hall of Famers, some of the best of all time. So the culture stuff and him really being like what they want is for him to legitimately be like the most influential member of the organization. So that, first and foremost, will be interesting to watch unfold. And then, on the court, he's just a guy that we know defensively he's done some really good things in the past. But I do wonder, because personnel-wise, you can't always make chicken soup out of chicken you-know-what, and that's going to be his challenge.
All right, lastly, we're hearing about Dellavedova, Quinn Cook, Shabazz Napier as potential roster fillers for this team. Any insight onto that and what, if anything, those guys could provide?
I wish I had more for you there. I certainly saw the reports of them working out. Dellavedova, it's interesting because I'm trying to remember if it was a knee. He dealt with something not too long ago where it looked like he might have to retire, and so he's obviously trying to make his way back. Quinn Cook, I keep mentioning the Warriors. He had kind of 15 minutes with the Warriors with some fun moments. He's a shooter, but they're trying to work around the edges and find guys that can help them. Again, it obviously all goes back to the West and the idea that they need firepower, and they it's going to be tough.
Well, enjoy your European vacation. We won't hear from you for a couple weeks. I hope you just stay disconnected and enjoy your time.
Thank you, sir. Always good seeing you.